Paul's on the line from London. Paul, what point would you like to make?
Hi, I'm the director of a small charity, London Play, and our work is there to make sure that London's a great place to grow up in. And we're a small charity. We don't have budgets for chauffeurs or colourful dresses or whatever. We run a lean tight ship, and every pound that we get in, 95p of it goes straight onto the work. And these scandals that have come up with, Age Concern and Kids Company, they have an impact on the smaller charities. And so we don't have the budget to fight a rearguard action like the bigger charities like Bernardo's, Save the Children. They have whole rooms full of people that can deal with that. There's 6 of us. And the impact is that there's a suspicion that charities aren't using their money as they should, and we absolutely do.
How do you notice this impact? Do you find that donations fall when there's a big negative story in the press about charities, or is it that you hear from people that they're a bit, reluctant to support you?
We had some funders come in yesterday that had given us a cheque, only a 4-figure cheque, but very useful. And that came up in conversation. They weren't, questioning our ethics, but the bigger conversation about how charities run themselves like a business came up, and how money is not being spent as it should. But we're working really hard to make sure that people realise we're a small charity. There are other small charities like us, and every penny counts. We don't waste that money. We use it for the purposes that we were set up for. In our case, London's 1.8 million children. That's what we're set up to do. That's where the money goes.
Paul, thank you for your call. Caroline Fines, what kind of advice do you give about small charities? Do you find that the big corporates who work with you do want a big charitable name that they, I guess, know something about, feel they can trust more?
So in England and Wales, there are about 170,000 charities, the top 10 of which consume about 1/12 of all the revenue. And if you look at the top 10 charities now versus 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's enormously stable. Whereas if you were to do that analysis within companies, there's much more churn, because it's much easier in the corporate world for a charity to die, frankly, if people don't like the product that it's providing. Then they Kodak, for example, they just sort of cease to exist and something else comes in. It's much easier for innovation to be rewarded. Whereas the way that a structural problem in the way that charities are funded is that it tends to be brand recognition that gets rewarded as opposed to effectiveness. And that's why people like me have our job, is in trying to identify actually where the effective work is going on and directing people there, because it's very hard to find it naturally.
Yeah, and why it's hard for people like Paul running a small charity. Paul, thanks very much for your call. Fiona's on the line